Today, I wanted to talk about Ghost of Yotei, aka the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, and some of the weird side tangents around this game's launch, or not launch, but just the reveal trailer and all these things. Wanted to go over them, ramble about them on this channel as, I'm not going to sit here rambling without a script on the main one. Now, my first honest instincts, the first three big things was that, this game looks cool. It looks as great as the first game in terms of what they're trying to show off. It looks cool that we're going to a new place and that we're also in a new time setting as we find out later. However, the compromise of having a new time setting is that there has to be a new character involved, and that's where my disappointment did come into us to an extent. I was expecting to continue on with Jin's story. Now, personally, I did want to continue on with Jin's story, maybe see him go over to the mainland, and then, dealing with the Shogun after the fact that, by the end of the first game, he's basically been made to be an exile, and he's not anti himself, but they don't like the ghost persona. And a part of me did want to see his story continue, maybe take on some form of tyrannical government organization that is a part of the Japanese society at the time, whatever it might be, whatever they wanted to do. I think it would have been interesting to see that perspective, where maybe they leaned a bit more into the stealth action in certain areas because he doesn't want to kill samurai, but then eventually maybe has to. And I would have thought that would have been a cool dynamic to do. They could have then continued on the story of Jin, Yuna, and all these things, but they're not doing it. But let's talk about the actual main topic of today's video, which is discussing just how political games have gotten, and it's really annoying, and I just find it really irritating because this video gets released, the reveal trailer, and the first thing that a lot of people say is this is a DEI main character because it's a woman. It's like, just because it's a woman doesn't mean that it's a DEI main character, okay? Just stop for 2 seconds. Realize that if your automatic response is this, then you are so far down the rabbit hole that you have no hope, okay? I'm just going to be honest with you. Is there a chance that this was done solely for the intention of diversity, inclusion? Maybe. Who knows? The thing is, though, is that we don't know. We fundamentally don't know. We don't know if the game is any good. We don't know if the story's been compromised in any sort of way because of this choice. So you can't really complain yet. The thing that I have an issue with is that this has kind of caused a counter-reaction, similar to how, for example, in actual politics, what you'll notice a lot is there will be something that happens that typically is like a left-wing thing happens, then the right wing have a counter-reaction, which then causes the left wing to have a counter-reaction, then the right wing will then have another counter-reaction, and it's just an endless loop, and typically it's over stuff that is like not even that insane. It's stuff that, you can argue maybe insane, maybe not, but generally speaking, it's not like the life and death of people all the time. And it's the same cycle all the time. It's every few days, it always happens. And we're now getting to the point where this is happening in gaming. And this counter-reaction was basically people going, if you don't like the main character, then you're just dumb, because it was not a DEI character and all these things. Now, this led to, anyone who has a middle ground opinion, which my middle ground opinion is literally just, I wanted to continue Jin's story, so I am a little disappointed. But people are lumping up anyone who has that perspective in with people who doesn't like the main character, either because of the voice actor or because of the character being a woman, and it's all being lumped under the same criticism when they're not the same. And also, I wouldn't even say being disappointed is necessarily a criticism in itself. But yeah, I found this just really odd. It's the same way with Assassin's Creed Shadows, where, Yasuke, I can understand that criticism. There's one big reason, and I'll probably irritate some people by saying this, which is that fundamentally, if you look into anything related to the historical accuracy of his character and what Ubisoft are trying to make the claims of, they don't link. The historian that it's all based on literally just cites his own work, and that's it. He has no full backing of anything, and it's just the case that Ubisoft wanted to make a character that they thought would be cool, or, as some may say, maybe a DEI character, and all this sort of thing. But what I'm trying to say is that with that, it at least made sense. There is credible accusations to be made where Ubisoft are, making a mockery of Japanese history and all these things. The cope from Assassin's Creed fans, and I'm going to talk about the cope from the Ghost of Tsushima side in a second, is that the cope from Assassin's Creed fans is Assassin's Creed was never historically accurate. Sure, that may be true. It may not have been accurate. Yes, was there a two shadowy organizations going against each other throughout all of history? We don't know, probably not. But let's just be honest here. Let's not act to loads of us didn't get into forms of history because of these games, that loads of us didn't take a lot of what happened within these games as levels of history, because the game is teaching you still to a degree of parts of history, even if there is, elements that are fantastical in their nature. I find it just insane that people seem to overlook that the main criticism of, Yasuke was that it's the first time that they're having a main character that is a historical figure. That's where the criticism comes in. People wouldn't have minded if he was just a random character on the side that you do a side mission with. But the reason why people have this complaint is that it seems to be questionable of his entire idea of being and how he is within this game when it's based on such a loose research. And the cope that I have with the Ghost of Yotei people is that anyone who has the criticism of being disappointed that it wasn't a continuation of Jin's story automatically has the rebuttal of, Jin's story was wrapped up ages ago. If you haven't played the first game, then just admit it. It's clearly true that if you play the DLC and the first game, his entire story is wrapped up. There's nowhere else for it to go. But the thing is, though, is that that's not how sequels work. That's not, you realize that, a lot of games, their stories are done in the first game. A lot of games don't need to have a second story. A lot of movies don't need to have a second movie. A lot of shows don't need to have another season. The stories get wrapped up. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't take a character to another place and continue on a story of this character's development. That's like saying that just because, someone has written a book and it's over the course of someone's life between 10 and 30, and now that they've hit 30, they've done all these things in this book, that their story's now done. No, this person, let's say the character dies at 70, there's still loads of that character's world and story left to tell. It doesn't mean that you have to just cut them out because of it. And to me, when I did see that it was a different character and it wasn't Jin, I did feel a little bit like, oh, this feels very Ubisoft coated. It feels as if Ubisoft, what they've always done, and everyone in the Assassin's Creed fanbase would complain about, which there is a heavy amount of overlap between Assassin's Creed fanbase and Ghost of Tsushima fanbase, is the lack of using their main characters more than once, instead of just giving up on them. Now, that is kind of where the big criticism lies for me, which is just, I wish that we did continue Jin's story. This doesn't mean that it's not open to the idea in the future. It doesn't mean that in the future, with the next era of PlayStation after the Pro, so the PlayStation 6, they could turn around and go, we've got this next Ghost of blank game, or Ghost of Tsushima 2, because technically he is the Ghost of Tsushima, and then they actually, do a new story with Jin. That could be on the table. However, it doesn't really feel like it when there's not really any information being given out there. We've just kind of gone on to a second game that is being publicized as the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. Anyway, I wanted to ramble about this. I know that some people just consider me wrong just for having the opinion that is not the typical, which is just like everything with blind ignorance around it. Oh yes, Ghost of Tsushima was such an amazing game, it has no flaws, and the sequel is going to be amazing. That's what people want me to say, and I can tell this by some of the comments that I've had in previous things that I've done. And yeah, I'll be interested, because I've got my Ghost of Tsushima video essay in the works right now, 20 pages into this script. And let's just say that I found out just a few days ago that my opinion on the side content isn't the average person's opinion. We'll see if I upset some people in that moment. But yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video to a degree. I just wanted to ramble on this. If you are interested in me doing more rambly things like this, where I'm just kind of talking about whatever game comes to mind, whatever it is, then let me know, because I'm happy to do some more of these, as they're easy to make for me, and it means that you guys get a little bit of extra content here and there. Anyway, with that all being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.